Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Caseware webinar. Today is the first in our three-part iXBRL series. So today we're looking at the introduction to iXBRL tagging, we've got the manual tagging and the common tagging errors sessions are going to be in the next few weeks. You can find those on our events page, but we'll signpost that a bit later on. My name is Tom Jeffrey. I'm one of the education and media technicians at Caseware UK. And I'm joined by Kieran May, Education and Media Consultant. Kieran's going to be taking you through the content today. And we've also got James Wright, Education and Media Technician, hovering in the background to help me monitor your questions, because there's quite a lot of you in the session today, which is excellent. So we'll just jump onto the housekeeping, talking about questions. You can pop those into the Q&A option there on the control panel, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We've allotted some time for Q&A at the end, but if we don't respond to you during the session, we'll do so afterwards, and we'll also include those in a Q&A document, which will accompany the recording of the session on the knowledge base. We're recording the session, so that recording will go on to YouTube as well in the next day or so, and we'll let you know when that is available. You've also got the chat feature there, which you can monitor for things like links. I think we've got a handout which we'll be sharing in there, and if you've got any technical issues in watching the webinar today, then let us know in the chat there. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. I'll hand over to Kieran, and we'll get started first of all with the agenda.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Tom. Hello, everybody. So yeah, our introduction to iXBRL tagging today. The agenda, we're going to go through what is iXBRL. So just to go through a quick overview. We're going to go through a lot of terminology today. So we're going to look at the introduction to all different bits of terminology that we'll be covering, not just on today's webinar, but the future webinars as well. We're going to jump into a couple of Caseware files. We're going to look at some auto tagging and how the auto tagging functionality works. We are going to look at how we do some basic reviewing of those tags and also generating an iXBRL instance document as well. So first things first, what actually is iXBRL? So iXBRL actually stands for Inline Extensible Business Reporting Language. Essentially, that's just a format of XBRL that is both machine and human readable. iXBRL documents are rendered using any standard web browser software, so whether it be Chrome or whatever you're using, and it appears as an HTML document, which I'm sure that you're all very familiar with. As I said, some key terminology that we're going to be looking through. The first thing we need to know about is tags. A tag is an item in a taxonomy that is to be attached to a document. So for example, that could be turnover. Tags can be financial, they can be text-based, or they can be dates, depending on how they're defined within the taxonomy itself. We've got tagging. Tagging is the process by which an item in a given taxonomy is attached to a document. Most information for which a suitable tag is available will be tagged automatically within the AccountsAdvanced template, which we'll be focusing on today. Taxonomies. A taxonomy is essentially a dictionary of common terms or tags used within the financial statements. There are a host of taxonomies available worldwide, covering a range of financial reporting standards and financial activities. We'll be going through the UK and Irish taxonomies in just a second. We've then got context. You'll need to assign a context to every tagged item in order to provide some sort of perspective. Contexts are useful in allowing the tags to be used multiple times, to just make your life easier. Context will contain basic properties, such as the period to which the information relates, but can also contain advanced properties called dimensions. The majority of the context required during the tagging process should be created and assigned automatically, once again, in the AccountsAdvanced template that we're looking at today. I mentioned dimensions just now. So a dimension is an advanced element of a context that is required in order to provide a comprehensive understanding of a tag. The properties of these dimensions will be explicit based on the structure provided within the taxonomy that you're using. For example, the cost of addition tag provided in the taxonomy will need a context that firstly explains the period, whether it's the current year or prior period, but also a dimension to express the appropriate fixed asset class that you may be working on. We've also got type dimensions. So unlike an explicit dimension where the breakdown in the taxonomy is known and listed, type dimensions are used when the breakdown structure and content is unknown or infinite. So for example, when tagging the individual breakdown of admin expenses, whether it be on the P&L or a detailed P&L, for example. We've then got numeric units. Numeric units are very, very similar to a context. Every tagged item will need to have some sort of numeric unit assigned to it to provide additional information for any numbers that may be there. The numeric unit is used to indicate symbols, such as maybe a pound symbol or any sort of currency symbol, or maybe even a percentage. All of the numeric units required during the tagging process should be created and assigned automatically, once again in the AccountsAdvanced template. One thing that everybody forgets is that any non-numeric values, such as text or dates, will typically require a numeric unit of no units of measure, as you can see highlighted on the slide there. And then finally, we have the instance document. An instance document is the exported form of that XBRL or iXBRL document that is submitted to the relevant authority. And we'll go through creating an instance document a little bit later on. So now we're going to have a look at some of the available taxonomies that we've got within the AccountsAdvanced templates. When accessing iXBRL tagging tools within Caseware, you'll be asked to select a taxonomy from the list provided. And so we'll go through that within the template in just a second. In most cases, there will be a couple of options for UK entities and just one for any Irish entities that you may be working through. So at the moment, you can see on screen the UK taxonomy that we would use for filing with HMRC. Now, filing with HMRC, you'll see that at the end here, we have with DPL on the end of the taxonomy name. That obviously stands for with detailed profit and loss. And you can see the standard taxonomies here for FRS 101, FRS 102, FRS 105, and any IFRS entities. Please do note that for any FRS 105 taxonomies, there's no taxonomy there. It extracts information from the relevant FRS 102 taxonomy. So that's just the slight difference there between all of the others. That's obviously for HMRC. Now for UK taxonomies for filing with Companies House, as you can see, there is no DPL options there. We just have the taxonomies available for FRS 101, FRS 102, FRS 105, and IFRS. The same thing applies for those FRS 105 entities. For your Irish entities, we've got the Irish taxonomies here. The only thing changing here is the name at the beginning. So we've got Irish FRS 101 with DPL, FRS 102, FRS 105, and once again, the IFRS options. If you have any charity or academy entities, some of these charities and academies may need to provide some sort of XBRL format accounts. There is one additional taxonomy available. It's called the Charities FRS 102 SORP taxonomy, and that is available within the specific template. So if you've got those templates installed, you'll be able to find those. Although some of the basic functionality within those templates is slightly different to what you'd get within AccountsAdvanced, all of the general principles are very much the same, or at least very, very similar. Taxonomy updates is something that we have to mention with the updates that are coming out. The new 2022 taxonomy is not currently yet available in Caseware. The 22 taxonomy will be coming. At the moment, for all of your accounts you're producing, the 2021 taxonomy will make sure all of your accounts are compliant. There are no compliance issues there at all. So for now, it's absolutely fine to continue using the 2021 taxonomies. As soon as we have any further details about when the release of the 2022 taxonomy is going to be, we will, of course, keep you informed using all of the usual methods. So the next thing I want to talk about is auto tagging, and we'll go through and complete some auto tagging in a second. The automated tagging tool is only available within the standard Caseware accounts production templates, not any custom built variations. So if you do have any custom built variations there, this isn't going to work as I'm going to show you today. We always recommend that you apply the latest updates to your engagement before you tag your file. So when we're talking about latest updates, we're talking about any EPACs and TPACs. Make sure you apply those updates before you start tagging the file, and then sort of any updated things that are coming through relating to tagging, you always have those latest versions there. And it says there may have been software updates which apply to the XBRL process that do not directly impact on the appearance or content of the financial statements, but which are still critical to the XBRL process. So as I say, take those updates if you've got them before you start the iXBRL tagging process. Okay, so I'm now going to jump into the first Caseware file that we're going to be looking at today. It's a very, very simple FRS 102 entity called Untag Limited. All of the accounts have already been produced. We've dealt with all of the rounding and things like that. So it's now at the stage where I think, well, okay, we need to now have a look at the XBRL tagging. So there are a couple of places where we can look at some XBRL options. The main thing that we're going to be focusing on today is going to be the XBRL tab on the AccountsAdvanced toolbar. When I click on that XBRL tab, we can see lots of different options. One thing that I will just say, there is another way we can access some of the iXBRL settings, and that's from the Tools menu on the white toolbar up at the top of the screen here. From Tools, you can see we've got this XBRL option with a drop down of different options. We will cover all of those different options in our future webinars. So today we're just going to focus on some of the basics. You can select the taxonomy is the first option that we have within the XBRL toolbar from the AccountsAdvanced toolbar. You can see from the drop down here, because we're working on a UK entity, we have the 2021 UK FRS 102 with DPL option, the 2021 UK FRS 102 without DPL option, and we've got the older taxonomies as well if you are working on any historic sets of financial statements. But say for today, we've got the detailed profit and loss, as you can see from the document map down at the bottom here. So we are going to select the taxonomy 2021 UK FRS 102 with DPL. So that's always going to be the first step that you're going to be taking. Now, it always comes up with this message. It says it's going to take several minutes to flow through. I'm hoping it's not going to take several minutes today. It's a relatively simple file that we're working on. Once that process has completed, we're going to get a message stating that the contexts have been imported successfully. You can see that this option has changed up the top to 2021 UK FRS 102 with DPL. And say, hopefully that shouldn't take too long to go through. Whilst that is going through, I'm just going to take you through some of the other options that we have within the XBRL toolbar. The first icon, we have the Apply Tags button. There you go, just got that message come through that the contexts have imported successfully, which I can click OK to. So as you can see, we've got the Apply Tags icon. That is where we go to apply all of the automatic and default tags within a Caseware file. We have a Generate iXBRL document, which we'll be covering a little bit later on. So that's how we generate our instance document. We have two icons relating to the review of tags. We have the option to highlight the XBRL tagged items or remove the highlighting, and we'll see lots of different colors. Those of you that have looked at iXBRL before, you'll be hopefully very familiar with those colors. We have our dimensions icon, where we can create some type dimensions, look at the dimensions within the file itself. We have a diagnostics icon, so we can view the tagging diagnostics report. Company's house icon, so that's if you're submitting to Company's house, we've got that option there. And over on the right-hand side, we have the color picker, and we're going through the color picker a little bit later on. I'll explain exactly what that means. And also confirmation at this stage on the far right-hand side that the automated tagging process has not yet been run. So the first process is going to be to apply the tags to this file, start that automated tagging process. So I'm going to click Apply Tags. So we've selected that taxonomy. I'm now going to select that Apply Tags button. Now, once completed, hang on, I'll just click yes to ensure you wish to auto tag this document. Yes, I do. Once this is completed, the process will have tagged every mandatory item that's in the default taxonomy. So every mandatory item in the 2021 UK FRS 102 with DPL taxonomy, together with most other tags available, providing the file is up to date. So once again, got to make sure that everything is up to date before we complete this process. However, we do need to consider whether there have been any changes made to the standard layout or content of these financial statements. Any changes that we make like this could result in information being tagged incorrectly or actually missing completely from the file. So in this particular file, untagged limited, we haven't made any custom changes, which means that everything should just be tagged automatically from the default taxonomy. If we had been working on a file, we'd change the layouts at all, then I say there are going to be some items that the tags could well be missing, or we need to go through and change those tags. We'll look at some of the changing of tags and things in the future webinars. As I say, today we're just focusing on the basics. It's now got to the stage where it is just creating the context. Once again, I know it says this may take several minutes. It shouldn't take too long at all. Once it has finished, we should see over on the far right-hand side of the iXBRL toolbar that we should get today's date and time appearing up at the top there, just to say that that has been completed. Once all of the tags have been applied, we're then going to look at the review options that we have available. We're just going to look at the simple reviewing options today. There are more advanced reviewing options within the tools menu on the white toolbar up at the top of the screen. But for today, we're just going to be focusing on the reviewing option that we have here. Once we have the option available, I'm going to say, there we go, tags have been applied successfully. As soon as we click OK to that message, I'm going to click straight on the first review tags icon. So to highlight the iXBRL tagged items, that should come through pretty quickly. Now, as only the automated tags have been applied to this file, the only color highlight that we should see at this stage should be lots of green throughout the financial statements. There are lots of different colors available, and we'll look at all the different colors once we look at the color picker options a little bit later on. Fingers crossed that should then come through pretty quickly. There we go, fantastic. So we can see on our cover page, which we're at the top of the financial statements, all of the different areas that have had those automated tags applied. So we've got the company number up at the top of the screen here, the company name, the name of the report, the year-end date. And as we scroll down through the financial statements, so company information page, down through the director's report, and then through to the primary statements, all the balance sheet items, all highlighted in green, statement changes in equity. And as we go down through the policies and indeed the notes to the financial statements, I say we should just see lots of green colors everywhere, just confirming that those tags have been applied. I will quickly have a look at the color picker at this stage. So up at the on the far right hand side of the AccountsAdvanced toolbar in the iXBRL section, we do have this color picker option. Now, the color picker, I think, is a really useful tool for two reasons. The first reason would be if you can't remember what the default colors mean in Caseware, it will tell you from here. So where we have an automatic match in Caseware, we get this green color. Where we have any change tags, we'll get this orange highlight. Any tags that have been deleted, we will get a red highlight around it. We've got the couple of colors here for any additions or custom additions into the file. And we've got the final pink color down the bottom for any indeterminates. The other really useful tool within the color picker option is to actually change these colors. You see, so if there are anybody that needs to change the colors, and that could be for any reason at all, but say there's the thing for deuteranopia, protanopia, and tritanopia, it will change those colors accordingly, just so that it's accessible for absolutely everybody. I'm going to leave everything on the default set, but you can save those and have that as a default option going forward if you do want to change those color styles. Okay, so we can see at this stage that this whole accounts document has had everything applied to it. So we can see all the different default tags in there. At this stage, I want to have a quick look through at how we generate the iXBRL instance document. So we can now say that the tagging process has been completed. We've performed any reviews, we've gone through and we've checked that everything has been applied correctly. So the iXBRL instance document can be generated by selecting the Generate iXBRL icon. So just to the right of where it says Apply Tags. Now, for our UK FRS 101, 102, 105 entities, we have two possible options and two separate iXBRL submissions may be required. And we looked at this when we were looking at the taxonomies earlier on, one for Companies House and one for HMRC. As a result, each time an instance document is requested, a choice must be made to ensure the correct properties are retained. Now, because we've selected the 2021 UK FRS 102 with DPL option, we will be selecting the HMRC option, so we don't get any errors of having that option there. Now, as soon as I click that option, it's going to come up with some initial diagnostic checks. These initial diagnostic checks performed at this stage to ensure certain basic elements are correct or completed accordingly. Various warnings will need to be generated at this stage. Each warning provides an explanation of exactly what is actually required. And we can see down at the bottom of the screen here what sort of errors can come up. Any error that comes up that has a red X next to it, that will be a critical warning. We can't continue with the export when we have any critical warnings. So if we've got a critical warning, we may need to go and amend some tagging or change maybe a context, something along those lines. It'll give us the option to go through and change those where applicable. What we have here, we have a diagnostic warning. An export can only be continued if we tick the tick box on a diagnostic warning. And then we may get some information warnings as well. So we get that little eye icon on the left-hand side, and it's just for information only. It may be relevant to the document that you are creating. The diagnostic warning that we have today, it's saying the accounts must be finalized before they can be filed. And so it's asking us to use the accounts completion section to apply this setting. Now, obviously, to be able to produce an instance document, we need to finalize the accounts. I will just quickly jump into another file that I have open, which is tag limited. I will quickly take us to the completion section of the wizard. If you're not familiar with the completion section of the wizard, let's say it's over on the far right hand side of the toolbar. We're on the wizard normally. What we need to see here is that we have, rather than it being draft accounts, we have the final accounts option selected on the completion section. And we've got the things like the dates in there and things like that. So just make sure you've got those options selected before actually generating the iXBRL document. However, because on Untag Limited, this is just a diagnostic warning, I don't have to complete the accounts before actually looking at the instance document if I want to use it purely for reviewing purposes. Obviously, I definitely wouldn't tick the tick box to proceed if this is what I wanted to use to actually submit to the relevant body. So I'm going to tick the tick box. And as soon as I tick the tick box, you'll see down at the bottom of the screen, I'll get a forward button appear. So I've got a back button, a forward button once I've cleared away any errors, and a cancel button as well, or a close button there. I'm going to click forward and see what happens when we get to the next screen here. So on here, we just have some final details. And the first section is really, really important, is where we're going to be saving the output file. So the actual instance document itself, that HTML file that we're then going to look at and review. We have two save icons. The first icon with a blue background to it is just a simple browse button. You can browse through to your File Explorer window and navigate to where you wish to save it. A lot of things that people miss is that you also have the the browse button with the white icon, and that's to edit the default location. So if you have a default location where you want to save all of your instance documents, especially from maybe a practice perspective where you want to just save all of your instance documents within one place, then you can change that on your individual Caseware installation, and then they'll all go to the same place going forward. Now, I'm just going to use the folder that I have here. I'm also going to insert the file name. So I'm just going to call this a webinar instance document. As soon as I've got that name in place, I will save it down. Now I've got a couple of tick box options down at the bottom here. The first tick box option is to export numeric items with 0 balances. Now, depending on where you're submitting, it's not a requirement under most circumstances to export numeric items with 0 balances, but there's no harm in doing it. So you can certainly tick that option. As if you're reviewing it, I'd certainly recommend ticking it just so you get to see all of the data. And also to include review functionality in the documents. Now we're going to have a look at what the review functionality looks like in the instance document once it's been produced in just a second. As it says in the warning below, we only tick this option for file review. If we are actually using this document for electronic filing, we don't tick that option. Companies House and HMRC will reject the document if that tick box has been ticked. But say for today, we're going to say we're going to be for reviewing it, so we will tick that tick box. As soon as we're happy with the options that we have selected, all we need to do to generate it is click on this Export Cloud button down at the bottom of the screen, and then that will start that generation process. Now, that's going to take a few minutes to generate. So I'm going to do my favorite sort of Blue Peter moment, and here's one I prepared earlier. So if I navigate through to, let me just find the tab that it's on. Here we go. Here is an instance document that I prepared earlier for Untagged Limited. Now you can see it's opened up within a web browser. It's opened up in Google Chrome for me. That's my default browser. And it is this iXBRL HTML document. You can see that as I scroll down through the file, it looks like the set of financial statements, sort of in almost like in a wide sort of view there. But we can see that we have different items that are highlighted with a red background to the cell background to it there. Now, whenever I hover over any of these items that have the red outline to them, we can see the XBRL details. Now, that's that review option that we selected that we don't tick if we're exporting it to HMRC or Companies House. Any of these items, we can see the different elements, the context that are being used for that particular tag, the period that it's relating to, the entity, any identifiers, any segmental information, and also the taxonomy that it's relating to as well. And this applies to the whole financial statements, and it's a really useful tool if we do want to review this outside of the Caseware document itself. So if you wanted to look at the tags, for example, on the statement of comprehensive income, we can see all of the different tags that are in place there, and we can review to make sure that they are showing as they should be. Okie dokie. One final thing that I wanted to quickly show you with regards to errors, if I jump back into my tagged limited file and jump back into the financial statements. Now within this tagged file, there have been a lot of custom changes made to the accounts. So I'm going to click on the Generate iXBRL document here. And fingers crossed when this loads through, I can select the HMRC option again. It's saying that the diagnostic has passed. So say we've looked at the completed section here, so there's no issues with that. So we can proceed with the export. And then we can go through, save where we're saving it to. So I might call this webinar instance document 2, for example. I've got the 2 tick boxes ticked again. I'm going to click on the export option. And then it's going to come up with some diagnostic errors. So it passed the initial diagnostic check. So the file was in the right format, all the settings had been set correctly in the file, but we can see we've got then some further XBRL diagnostics. So you can see we've got some items here with red X's down the left-hand side. These are items that we cannot generate the iXBRL instance document without correcting them. So we can see here we've got some an item representing information over a period is using a context associated with a specific date. We've also got a date of audit or accounting report does not reference a valid explicit dimension. You can see whenever I have any of these options highlighted that have an X next to them, I have the option to correct the tag down at the bottom of the screen. Now, I'm not going to steal everybody's thunder for the following 2 webinars that we have in this series. They'll be going through this in a lot more detail, but just be aware if it passes the initial diagnostics check, there may be further errors that may appear. We've also got some warnings as well, so a different value found in items using tag name of entity officer, and just some information options as well. Because we have these 2 options with the red X next to them, it's not going to let us generate this instance document. So the only option I have at this stage is to cancel or correct those particular errors. Okie dokie, so I'm going to quickly jump back into the PowerPoint. I know we're going to have some time for some questions at the end. So at this stage, I'm going to hand back to Tom and James.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks very much for the presentation there. And yes, we have got a lot of questions. So thanks very much for everybody who submitted those. You can continue to do that. We're not going to shut off the Q&A in the chat now, so you can continue to submit your questions for the rest of the webinar. We've got up to an additional 15 minutes, depending on how we go. and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But as you can see there, you've got the Q&A and chat options there that you've been using throughout the session. Most of the questions that we've had are around, or a lot of the questions that we had are around reviewing, being able to sort of get an insight into what's tagged, what should be tagged. We've had a question around how you know whether a tag has been modified, what it would have been tagged as before you customized it. How do you know whether the auto tagging has run successfully, things like that. I think we had another question, which I've got on my other screen here, which is how can we see how many tags there are in a Caseware file?
Yeah, so, there's quite a few questions there. So yeah. let's go through some of them as I go through and remember. Let's just open up my tag limited file here. So within my tag limited file, I think one of the questions we had there was to see if the tags running the apply tags function has been completed successfully. We saw as we when we were on screen earlier, once that process has been completed, it will give you the text. I can't remember what it says off the top of my head. I think it says contents have been imported successfully. That message will come through. But the main thing you're looking at within a file is on the right hand side of the AccountsAdvanced toolbar, you'll get the last time that document was tagged. So for this tag limited, that was done at some point last year. If I jumped into the untag limited file, we can see the document was tagged today at 12:15. So that will be how we saw when the apply tag was last applied and if it has indeed been done successfully.
And as James pointed out in the chat there with the initial response, of course, if you're if you're looking to generate the instance document and proceed with the process and something hasn't been tagged successfully as it should be in the auto tagging process, then of course that's going to be picked up in your errors.
Yes, definitely will be. Another one of the questions I think I had there was how many tags there are in the file and what sort of tags there are. It wasn't something I was planning to cover today, but we'll go through it now. You've got the diagnostics button that I think I referred to earlier on. So I just click on this diagnostics icon. We'll have a little window come up on screen. And what we will see on this diagnostics tab, we will see all of the different types of tags that we have within the file itself, how many there are. We'll also see some interesting options with relation to corrections and things. I'm hoping it's not going to take too long to generate for us.
We have got a couple of questions that have come through that do require further investigation. So I'm not going to put you on the spot too much. I might do it.
Not a problem. That iXBRL diagnostics window has just come up on screen. So I'll talk you through what we've got on screen here. So we've got the taxonomy up at the top here, the status of the file, the taxonomy location, the name of it. The bits that you're going to be interested in really is the number of matching tags. So we can see that on this untagged limited file, we have 7,696 match tags. That may seem a lot, but say there's a lot of information that gets sent across to Companies House and HMRC. So say don't be surprised if you have a number well over that value when you're tagging your file. You'll also see with the color coding included as well there, the number of missing tags in the file, number of change tags, number of custom additions, library additions and things. If you do have any missing tags or change tags, it will give you the details of those changes down at the bottom of this window as well. So if you've got any change tags, so highlighting the orange color by default, it will give you these options down at the bottom of the screen. And you can also save out this diagnostics report as well. So if you did want to export that out of Caseware, 100% you've got that option there to do that.
Lovely, thanks, Kieran. We do have additional guidance available for the bits that Kieran's just gone through. So if you'd like us to send anything over to you or point you in the right direction, we can do so. That's all on the knowledge base, which we'll plug a bit later on. In terms of what other questions we have here, we've got, can you, so this is an important one, can you lock down the tags if there's a delay between completing the tagging and submitting the accounts? Yeah,
so it's a point that not many people realize you can do within Caseware. Obviously, most people are aware about locking down the file as part of a year-end close routine and things like that. But yes, you can lock down the tagging. So let me just close out of the diagnostic screen. So once you're happy with the tagging, and obviously quite often there's going to be a time delay, especially if you're sending out the accounts to clients for signature and things like that. And also you might be delaying submitting the accounts for whatever reason that may be. So it's always worth, as soon as you're happy with your iXBRL tagging, locking that down, so just so people can't go in and make changes accidentally. To do that, we go to the document tab up at the top of the screen here. Second icon in, we have this lock key icon, and down at the bottom there we have an iXBRL tagging option. So it stops you making any changes to any tag. It stops you updating the apply tags option. You can still do all of the review tools and things, but it just stops anybody making any changes. So I think that's well worth doing. So if there is any significant delays between actually looking at the tagging itself and then actually submitting the accounts to Companies House and HMRC, hopefully that answers that one okay.
Lovely, thank you. And we've got a couple of questions here, I think, that are covering the same thing. So if we've already tagged using an older taxonomy, do we need to update to the 2021 version? And what is the difference? So, for example, between the 2019 and 2021?
So the 2021 taxonomy is going to be going to keep you compliant for any of the accounts you're producing at the moment. So we're sort of the current sort of year ends. The older taxonomies obviously relate to older year ends where, you know, things have changed. Companies Act, financial reporting standards have changed. What's expected from Companies and HMRC has changed over time. So it would all depend on what sort of year end you're working on and what taxonomies are going to maintain compliance and what aren't. As I said earlier, always make sure your files are up to date with regards to knowledge library updates, EPAC, TPAC updates and things like that. At the moment, for all current year-end data, say use the 2021 taxonomies. As soon, I think I said earlier on, as soon as the 2022 taxonomies are available, obviously we'll let you know. But for now, use the 2021 taxonomies for your current year-end dates, and you'll be absolutely fine.
Okay, so hopefully that answered the question, but of course let us know if you need some more information. No, I think that's gone down well. Thanks, Kieran.
Perfect.
So we have another one here, which is, can you still use the iXBRL without DPL for HMRC if you do the DPL within the tax return itself?
So obviously you need, my understanding is you need the full accounts for HMRC. So if you're, HMRC requires these and form to be accompanied with the accounts. So yeah, we're using the full options with DPL. I say if there's any further clarification, we may need to find out a bit more detail.
We can always speak with clarify that with our the product teams, including the tax team, of course.
But as I say, normal practice would be if you're submitting to HMRC, it's the full option with DPL there.
Lovely. Okay, so I think we've got one more question that we can answer on the session. As I say, the remainder we will need to find out some more information and get back to get back to everyone afterwards. Oh, that's a very good question. Let's go with that. So how do you turn on the detailed P&L?
Yeah, so turning on detailed P&L. Yeah, thanks. So it's from the accounts prep table. We have a detailed profit and loss within this file already, but if I jump to the accounts prep table very quickly, obviously this is for a small company. It's always going to be the second to last option on your accounts prep table. So I scroll right down to the very bottom. We have the detailed profit and loss option. So it's this detailed accounts option, accounts advanced template, it's option 67. If you select yes, it then gives you all the different options within the detailed accounts of what needs to be turned on, what doesn't. A lot of these will be selected automatically from what you have mapped to your P&L items. But say turning off and on, you're using the disclosure override column and you're selecting yes or no. By default in the Accounts Advanced template, the default option, no matter what size of entity you're working on, will always be that it's turned off. So if you do need a DPL there, you'd always need to select yes to turn that on.
Follow-up question is, and do you need to save this as a separate file to your actual accounts? Of course, the DPL appears at the foot of the accounts document.
It does indeed.
So it's the same file.
Yes, same file, yeah.
Okay, can you change a default tag? I think we sort of hinted well, that you can because of the reviewing options.
Yeah, very much so. Yes, you can change the default tag. I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder for the next couple of webinars that we have coming up. We're going to be doing that in a lot of detail in the upcoming webinars. I mentioned a little bit earlier that from the tools menu up at the top, we have this iXBRL drop down. When you click on that tags button, you get a load of different options available to you to change the default tags where appropriate. So say if you haven't made any customizations to the template or to the accounts, you know, you might have played around with the tables or inserted your own sections. Yeah, it can all be done from that menu. But say definitely watch the upcoming webinars where we'll be going through that in a lot more detail.
Thanks, Kieran. Okay, I think we have reached a conclusion on the live questions. James very, very helpfully has put a link in the chat to remind everyone to be sure to sign up for the next iXBRL webinar, and there's a link to our events page there.
Perfect.
So if we jump to the next slide, just a reminder again that we have our events page, caseware.co.uk/events, and that's where our webinar schedule sits. It's being updated all the time. And you can see there a snapshot of some of the upcoming sessions. We do have our next iXBRL session in June, although it's not on the list there, but it is on the events page. And then we are concluding the 3-part series with common iXBRL tagging errors on the 12th of July. All of those sessions will be recorded and added to the YouTube channel. So we will let you know when those recordings are available if you want to share with anybody who can't join, or if you wanted to rewatch them yourselves, of course. But head over to the events page and you can register and see all the agendas. Another couple of plugs here. We have our LinkedIn page, Client Services Caseware UK Limited, and we also are on YouTube. If you follow us on LinkedIn, we'll keep you up to date with the latest news and let you know when we have upcoming sessions. And on YouTube, if you subscribe and set your notifications, we'll let you know when a new video is available. For example, the recording of this webinar. But we've also got lots of quick vids separated into playlists on there. So that's all of our bite-sized guidance as well. And just on the next slide there, a reminder, kb.caseware.co.uk, that's our knowledge base, and that's where we have all of our articles, which include videos. We'll also upload the Q&A document with the recording of this session. You'll find all of your iXBRL guidance listed in the relevant category there. So that brings us to the end of the session. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you, Kieran, for the content, and James for helping with the questions. We'll get back to you with responses to those that we haven't answered yet. We hope you enjoyed the webinar and you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.